Sanjay. It's National Read a Book Day. I'm going to give you a few minutes to kind of get in here and find yourself a seat. It's story time. Hey, Marika. It's story time. You guys ready? Take a seat. Get in. Have a seat. Take a seat. I'm imagining like you guys are in a theater. We're in a theater, right? Have a seat. Have a seat. Hello. So it's story time because it's National Read a Book Day. Alicia, I appreciate you posting both of my books on your social media today. I appreciate it. I actually got some orders today through social media. I don't know who they came from. There were orders that came through PayPal via Carolyn posted something on social media on her Instagram, so I appreciate you as well. And then a guy named Shane, I think he's in Dallas. So some orders came through today, so I appreciate you guys for posting. See how that happens? Now I won't be sitting in here in the dark. I was able to pay my power bill. So it's National Read a Book Day. Ronell, have you ordered your books yet? I'm reading a piece from my second book. One thing for certain, two things for sure. All right? So this is an excerpt from my second book. And then we'll talk. You know how we talk at the end, right? Is the music too loud? Can you hear me? We good? I guess we're good. Nobody said it's too loud. You guys ready? Can I get an amen? Can I go ahead? Can I go ahead and preach, Pastor? Preach, Pastor. I'm ministering to you. I'm ministering. Ronell, send me an email. You're saying you want the books. I'll sign them for you. Send me an email. My details are up in the caption. Wisdom, send me your email as well, too, because I remember you said you wanted to get this. No, you said you wanted the first book. I can't remember. Just send me an email. The email is up here. Or you can just send the email. Okay? The email is so much to say podcast. Or the email is bookthewriter@gmail.com, whichever one. But they're up here. All right, so okay, so you're saying preach, okay? All right, so this is National Levi. Welcome. You actually made it today at the beginning. So I'm reading from One Thing for Certain, Two Things for Sure. That's the second book. We teach ourselves many things while hiding in the closet. How to cheat, how to sneak, how to pass it straight, and how to lie. But not just to ourselves, to those who know and love us. With that, we program ourselves and are conditioned to believe it's wrong to be gay. Once we come out of the proverbial closet, we forget to reteach ourselves the things we learned while locked away in that closet. Thus, many of us bring unhealthy thoughts and behaviors with us into this community, into the gay community. Sneaking and cheating for the sake of hiding and lying about our sexuality as teenagers teaches many of us how to be dishonest liars as grown men. And many never outgrow the behavior even after they accept their sexuality. I have more understanding now about why some gay men marry women. Some of these men marry women to prove their masculinity to themselves, while others jump the broom for a chance at happily ever after because it is their belief that they'll never find the consistency or longevity they desire with a man. They fear being alone for the rest of their lives. It's believed by many that gay men are incapable of offering longevity. Thus, these men marry women with the hopes of finding the companionship they crave with another man. A great number of gay men are emotionally vacant and emotionally inconsistent because many of us, and I'm including myself, because many of us lack the emotional language to communicate how we feel and what we need as gay men. To that end, we're in part a community of men with wounded hearts and tortured souls attempting to love each other without doing the proper self-healing first. The truth is, before we ever speak our truth to anyone, we admit to ourselves that we're gay. And I believe there's an emotional trauma that occurs before or during the coming out process that affects self-esteem. Oftentimes, we harbor insecurities around coming out, and those insecurities latch on to self-esteem, depleting it. Whether we incur emotional wounds while hiding in the closet or simply by default in telling people our truth, very few gay men come out of the closet unscathed. Those emotional scars lead to the emotional blocks in our relationships that prevent us from building emotional communication with one another, which results in us giving up on our relationships without explanation. And we stay in them, and if we stay in them, we spend a considerable portion of the relationship trying to heal our partner. The first breakup I ever experienced was admitting to myself that I was gay. It was painful to face that truth. Many years passed before I acted on the feelings. Even after I came out to family and friends, I still quietly grieved my truth while carrying my broken heart. While carrying my broken, bleeding heart with me into every relationship and friendship that I had along the way. That bleeding heart poisoned every chance I had for healthy relationships. I secretly sabotaged my chances at healthy relationships because on some level, I thought it was impossible for two men to have a healthy relationship free of deception, cheating, and other dysfunctions. Oh, that's all I marked. That's it. So that's a piece of the epilogue. So those are just like my final thoughts. Of course, within the book, I'm actually giving you my life, like just different experiences. This book picks up where the first book leaves off. It picks up with when I moved to LA. I'll read a piece of the first chapter to kind of give you how it takes off. Can I do that? And keep in mind that I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. That's Erykah Badu, right? All right, so this first chapter is called Beautifully Complicated. And I haven't marked where I'm going to stop, so just kind of bear with me. I'll just kind of figure it out as I'm going. This chapter is called, this is the first chapter in the second book, it's called Beautifully Complicated. So much had happened in the 3 months after my ex Jacob and I broke up. I had lost faith in dating. Wait, is that what I wanted to read? Yeah. Thank you, Marion. I had lost faith in dating, in relationships in general, and I wasn't interested in getting to know anyone new on a romantic level. I was living in Los Angeles, soul searching, still unsure why I had sold everything I owned of value to leave Atlanta and move to a city where I knew only 2 people, and why I did so without a car or a job. Meanwhile, Jacob had moved to New York to build on a career as a magazine editor and to create a new life with new memories to add to those from his grad school days at NYU. Remember, this is a true story. This is all true. Before Jacob and I ended our relationship, we talked about moving to Los Angeles together, but he later thought a move to New York would better suit us both professionally. He was an entertainment journalist, he as an entertainment journalist, and me as a playwright. Yet, there I was in Los Angeles, unsure what my next steps would be. 1 week after our relationship ended, Jacob was offered an executive editor position at a national entertainment magazine. When he called to tell me the position he applied for before our relationship dissolved had come through for him in New York, I knew for certain there was no chance of salvaging the relationship. When I saw his number flashing on my cell phone, I couldn't imagine why he was calling because we hadn't spoken in the week following the split. At the time, I was working part-time at my hosting job at Murphy's, a restaurant in the Virginia Highlands section of Atlanta. I answered his call despite the restaurant's strict no cell phone policy for employees. Leftover feelings from the breakup gave me the courage to risk the penalty of answering his call. Frankly, I hoped that he was calling to say we'd made a terrible mistake by walking away from our relationship, that there was one more thing we could try to make it work. Instead, he was calling with his good news. Jacob also told me on the call that it wouldn't be necessary for me to move my furniture right away from the West Midtown apartment we shared in Atlanta because he wouldn't be moving to New York for another month or so. I had moved out of the apartment 2 months before. My friend Kensel, that's my friend Angela that you see me in the videos with, my friend Kensel, who had been there for me countless times in the past, was there to pick me up, dust me off, and give me a place to stay. After Jacob's call, I felt empty and lost. It felt like we had broken up for a second time. Jacob and I figured a position in New York would come through for him almost instantly because he had made a name for himself in Atlanta writing for such magazines as People, Vibe, InStyle, and Upscale. And he was quickly outgrowing his positions at 2 national magazines, working as entertainment editor at one and managing editor at the other. But for some reason, I never considered him leaving for New York so soon, and certainly not without me. After 13 years in Atlanta, I craved a new beginning. I was beyond frustrated with my career and Atlanta's oversaturated gay scene that felt more like 2 degrees of separation rather than 6. When Jacob told me about his new position, part of me believed he called only to rub it in my face because his competitive spirit, he was a Leo, because his competitive spirit could go from friendly to surly in the blink of an eye, and he knew how desperate I was to leave Atlanta. In the weeks that followed our breakup, I was flooded with thoughts about how things had played out between us. I was talked into a relationship with Jacob before I felt we had allowed adequate time to date. When I started going out with him, I was still recovering from the fiasco with Raylan, a guy I dated who burglarized my apartment 2 years prior. If you read my first book, you know who Raylan is. When it came to allowing someone to get close to me, I was beyond cautious, even though I had known Jacob from a distance for years, and we shared a handful of mutual friends. I was still jarred by the experience with Raylan and slightly jaded. Sure, I pursued dating Jacob initially, but I entered into that relationship prematurely because I didn't want him to think I was still interested in dating other people or that I wasn't serious about a commitment with him. The truth is, there were stages of development that we needed to reach before we graduated to a commitment. But we bypassed those and skipped steps. On paper, Jacob and I were perfect. We made sense. We were both writers. We enjoyed traveling, discovering new foods and restaurants, and we had similar lifestyle interests. Nevertheless, we were different fundamentally. And I agreed to enter into that relationship before I was able to discover the vast differences that would ultimately cause the relationship to implode. Jacob and I were... Y'all sitting here debating about the Leo. Are y'all listening? You should be listening. We'll talk about Leos after this. Jacob and I were seated at Rare, a tapas restaurant in downtown Atlanta, when he asked a second time, quote, "Craig, what are we doing?" End quote. He was ready for the relationship, but I wasn't ready for a title, a commitment. After I explained why we weren't quite ready, he shut down. He sat quietly, pensively, until we finished dinner and the check came. Leaving the restaurant, I noticed tears in Jacob's eyes. Technically, Jacob was already living with me in my Atlantic Station apartment because I usually picked him up from the airport when he returned from his press trips. Excuse me. Eventually, I uncovered the reasons I was reticent to give all of my relationships a title. I prolonged the friendship phase so that I wasn't required to do much heavy emotional lifting because I was intimidated by love and the vulnerability that comes with being in love. It was a defense mechanism. I was afraid that we would fall into a routine or that we would become complacent. Simply put, I was scared that things would become stale and fall apart. In hindsight, I realized my defense mechanisms were at play, an attempt to avoid heartbreak again, as in the case with my first love, Carrington, who I also write about in the first book. My instinctive reflex to guard my emotions could be compared to the way in which a muscle spasms in our back to protect the spine from trauma when involved in a car accident. Nevertheless, I agreed to be in the relationship with Jacob despite my insecurities. I want to jump to another part. Give me a second. Okay. Another issue was Jacob's unwillingness to fess up that his on-again, off-again relationship with cocaine was back on. I wanted to believe him when he said he quit for good 4 months before we began dating. We were driving back from our first weekend getaway, a press trip to Tybee Island, when he told me he had quit. It wouldn't be long before I saw signs that he was still getting high. Frankly, I didn't really need tangible proof that he hadn't quit because on some level I knew intuitively. My eye was trained to spot a user from years of watching my sister battle addiction. I write about my sister's addiction in the first book. On 2 separate occasions, Jacob came in at 6 a.m. and I became more than eager to prove that I knew he was still addicted to drugs while divesting my affection in the process. Our bond became a loveless, passionless relationship that ultimately taught me who I thought I wanted wasn't what I needed at the time. That the relationship was merely a bridge to the next phase of my life. Still, I would learn plenty from it about choosing a partner in the future. There will be struggle in every relationship, but there should also be growth. Sadly, Jacob and I weren't growing together through our conflicts. We grew apart. We avoided the most important conversations at all costs. He, for the sake of maintaining the illusion of a picture-perfect relationship, and I, for the sake of keeping the peace. Jacob and I avoided the tough conversations for fear of hurting each other. But our relationship to the ones we love, let me go back. Jacob and I avoided the tough conversations for fear of hurting each other. But our responsibility to the ones we love is to be open and honest, even if it hurts them. All right, that's all y'all gonna get. Oh, wait. I'll give this last two paragraphs. I'm going to give the last two paragraphs. Our job as a good partner is to be a mirror for those we love so they can see themselves through us. The issues that Jacob and I needed to sort through, we didn't. Many things were left unsaid. Smaller issues went unresolved until they compounded into larger ones. The silence between us was louder than the things we said to each other. And silence is subsequently what detonated our relationship. 1 month into my move to LA, I was trying to convince myself that the breakup was best for both of us. We were too different fundamentally to be together. But it's not always easy to walk away from a relationship. Just when I was sure I was over Jacob, I caught a glimpse of him in the audience of a VH1 storyteller taping of a Maxwell concert. All of the feelings that I thought I had put away came crashing back all at once. So that's the very first chapter. That's the very first chapter in the second book. Wow. Any questions? Yeah, Eric, the first book, Words Never Spoken, is in audio form. It's on audible.com. Just type in Words Never Spoken or Craig Stewart and it will come up. I have yet to record this one. I was supposed to record this one when I was on hiatus from the podcast, but I didn't get to it. Thank you, Latanya Miles. Did you get your book today? You should have gotten your book in the mail. You should have gotten this book today. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, I need to record this book because I haven't done it yet. Ronell, did you send your money for your books? He said, when am I sending his books? Did you pay for them yet? Marion, yes, you're 2 books behind. Marion, send me an email now. The email is up here, and then I'll send you a PayPal request, and they will ship out tomorrow. I have books to ship tomorrow, so you'll get them the day after that. Just got home and didn't check the mailbox. Oh, okay, yeah, it's there, Latanya, Miss Miles. Get them and give me. Jacob and I are no longer still in contact after this book. Now, here's an interesting story about this. Okay, Ronell, you sent me the email? Oh, you're saying, yes, you'll do that. Okay, Alicia, I'm going to come to your question. Levi, you asked me if I'm still in contact with Jacob. No. Here's what happened. He did an article on me for my first book in... Oh, let me get it. Do you guys remember this issue of Uptown with Gabrielle Union? So he did an article on me in here. I'm going to find the article. I keep this on my coffee table. And my parents, they have copies of it. So he did an article here. That's me. Right? So he did this article. And then he said to me one day, he said, well, why didn't you write about our relationship in your first book? Because remember, the second book came out 3 years after the first book. And so I said, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. You know, I guess the story didn't really lend itself. What's up, Don Terry? I was like, I guess the story just didn't. Oh, you already sent the PayPal run now? All right, let me look at that. So I said, well, the story didn't lend itself to our relationship, the first book. I said, but if I ever write a second book, I'll be sure to put our relationship in there, right? I really didn't think I was going to write a second book. But what happened was when people started reading the first book, just like you guys send me emails now, I was getting all of these emails from people like, where's the second book? Like, it was so bananas. Because for one, I was kicking off the book tour. I was brand new to this. I was trying to figure things out as I was going. I was trying to order books to sign them and ship them out. And I was trying to plan the next city that I was going to go to. And so I really didn't think that I was going to write a second book. And so I ended up writing it because, like I said, I started getting pressured from people saying, no, there's another book. You need to write another book. And we need to know what happened when you got to LA. And so I ended up writing the book. I reached out to my ex again and said, hey, would you do another story for me in Uptown? And he was like, okay. So, you know, part of what you do when somebody writes a story on you, even if it's not your ex, like if an article, if a magazine or whoever, they write a story on you, you send them complimentary copies of the book. So I sent him a complimentary copy of the book. Well, he started reading it and he didn't like what he read. So he, needless to say, he didn't put me in the magazine again. And he blocked me on Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so next question. Okay, so the next question was, Alicia says, how do you feel when you are reading your words now and you realize how much you have grown? To be perfectly honest with you, I don't even recognize the person in this book or Words Never Spoken. I don't recognize that person. When I sometimes when I'm sometimes reading at a signing, or because this is all new to me, like reading on here. Like I have videos on my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel information is up in the caption. But I have videos like reading different things on YouTube, and just different things. Like there's a story on there on my YouTube channel of where it began. Like the very first reading that I ever did, it was at a friend's house. I'll tell you that in a second. Let me write a note so I won't forget. First reading. Getting better. So when I read now or look back now, it's just like, God, that's who you were? That's the person you were? Like, what space were you in to have participated in some of the relationships that I participated in? What space were you in to have gone through just some of the dark times that I went through that I write about in the book? So, like, I don't even recognize that person. Oh, even like in the first book, I'd write about how I used to write my own checks and pretend like I didn't write those checks. And I would use my own credit cards and I would pretend that I didn't use them. I'd call the credit card company and say, I never got my credit card. This when I was in college. So when I look back now, I'm like, God, I don't even recognize that person. Like, who is that? So I definitely see the growth. Oh, so let me tell you this before I read the next question. So the very first reading that I ever did, it's videoed. I had it videoed. And it's on my YouTube channel. And so it was at one of my friend's house here in Atlanta. I wasn't living here yet. I hadn't moved back. I had just come back from California. I had just moved back to the East Coast. And I was in Maryland. I had gone home for a little bit. And I came down here to Atlanta to visit. I was only supposed to be here for like 9 days. And I ended up being here for like 6 weeks. I stayed at my friend Angela's house a couple weeks. I stayed at like 2 or 3 other people's houses. Like I just broke it up. And I was here for 6 weeks. And somebody said, no, you shouldn't just be visiting. Like you need to start planting seeds. Because I was going to go back to Maryland and then come back for the reading. And so somebody was like, no, you need to go ahead and schedule some readings now. Let me put some music on. I feel like it's crazy. And so somebody was like, no, you need to go ahead and set up some readings now. And so I planned 3 readings while I was here for those 6 weeks. So I ended up being here for 6 weeks and not 9 days. And so the first one was at a friend's house. He has a loft. And so another friend of mine was about to open his restaurant. And I mentioned him one day last week on my live video. He was in here and I said he used to pick me up and take me to work every day. And my friend Will, I told you guys about him the other day. Well, Will was just about to open his very first restaurant in Atlanta. So what I did was he offered. He said, well, listen, I'll do like a few little appetizer kind of things. He did some sliders, he did some wings, and he did one other thing. And then he supplied like some champagne. And then my friend Scott, who hosted it, he opened up his bar at his house. And we just had a little something. And so I invited like 20 people. We invited like 20. I just wanted it to be small. And plus I was nervous. This was going to be the first time I was reading in front of people. And so I hadn't even had the books printed yet. Remember, I only had one book at this time. It was the first book, Words Never Spoken. And so I didn't even have a physical book. So I had printed off like the first few pages from the book, and I read that, and I read it to you guys the other night. It was the prologue that began the first man to develop real feelings for contracted HIV from the first man to develop real feelings for contracted HIV, but he found out 2 months after we met. So I read that piece, and I had it filmed. And so if you go to YouTube, my YouTube channel, you can see that very first reading that I did. And I actually kind of broke down, and I didn't cry, but I got a little emotional just thinking back to what I had written. But I remember when I was living in LA and I was actually writing the first book, I would literally wake up in the middle of the night, some nights, heart palpitating, sweating, because I would literally see myself. Remember, I say to you all the time, your imagination is God's proof of what's possible in your life. And so I would imagine myself standing in a room full of people, listening to me read. And my heart, I would wake up and my heart would be racing because I was nervous. And I remember thinking like, God, am I really ready for that? Am I really ready for that? And again, like I told you before, I shifted what I was thinking. I wouldn't allow fear to take over, and I would just change my thoughts. I wouldn't allow myself to be nervous about it. I would also be nervous that the gay community would feel like, well, who the fuck he think he is trying to speak for all of us? I'm not trying to speak for all gay people. I know my story is my story. I understand that we're not a monolith. I just want to be a voice, not the voice, just a voice in the community. And so I just sat down and told my story, and that was how it started. Let me look at the next question. So Carolyn says, how long before the next book? You know what? Carolyn says, how long before the next book? And you should set a time for reading and discussion. So 9 o'clock is going to be my reading time. So it's funny that you say that, because I decided today, when I woke up today, I said, you know what? My time of day is going to be 9 o'clock. So 9 p.m. is the time that I'm going to be here. And so I'll just read like little different pieces or just have conversation with you. Just depends what I'm feeling, if some shit happened that day. The next book that I'm writing now, again, is called Book of Jewels, because it's a book of jewels, baby. I don't know when I'm going to be done. Now, my plan was to be done by the end of this year, but it's already September. And remember, I still need to record the audio version of this, because I know some of y'all lazy and y'all don't want to read. And I'm hosting a podcast every week. So yeah, so I'm trying my best. But here's the thing. The reason why I haven't finished this third book is not so much because I haven't had the time. It's because I'm taking my time on it, because this book in particular is special in a way that these books aren't. The first two aren't. The first two books, it was just a matter of me sitting down and writing my life out. The book that I'm writing now, Book of Jewels, is different. Yes, I'm giving you pieces of my life. Maybe I'll read you guys a piece of that. Not tonight, maybe another day. I'm giving you pieces of my life, but it really is all of the biggest life lessons that I've learned. And so I give you the stories behind those life lessons, how I arrived at the lessons. And each chapter opens with an original quote, like that one that I just said to you. Your imagination is God's proof of what's possible in your life. And so, like, for example, like at my house, I'm going to show you something real quick. And I'm just going to hold the camera close to me because I don't want people to think I'm trying to show off my house and all that dumb shit. But in my house, I have like a wall of quotes. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I have, like, these are all my own original quotes. See my name, like, signed down here? So I have like a wall of quotes. And the same thing like in my bathroom. Well, in the guest bathroom. So like in the guest bathroom, I have like a wall of quotes. See? So like when people come in here, they see that. So this book that I'm writing now is very, very, Book of Jewels is very, very, it's special. Like I have to take my time. You know what I'm saying? I have to take my time and really make sure that I'm saying everything that I need to say. So that's really what it is with that one. I love that magazine. Oh. I do feel liberated. I feel, Marion says, do I feel liberated since telling my story? I really do. I don't recognize the person that's in these books. I know that it's me, but I can't, like I said, I can't believe that I lived through. First of all, there's so much gratitude that I was able to make it through such dark times. Like, because I write about a depression that I experienced. And mine was a functional depression, meaning like I wasn't medicated, like I didn't need to get on medication. Mine was, I think sometimes depression is broken faith, right? And for some people, it's chemical. You really do need to be on medication because it's a chemical imbalance in your body. But for me, I think mine was just broken faith. And that's why now I live my life in such a way that I don't worry. How I say to you guys all the time, you need to trust life. You need to trust that whatever happens in your life, it's by design. And it's happening to grow you the best way and the fastest way, right? But sometimes we resist. And this is part of what I talk about in the book that I'm writing now, Book of Jewels. But sometimes we resist because we want to try to manipulate life and try to control things. And you can't. You have to release the reins of life and just trust life. So like I write about in the first book how my car was repossessed. And I was like stressing myself out, trying to figure out how to, I was praying the whole time, like, dear God, I need to figure out a way to I just don't want to worry about this car. I don't want to worry about this car payment. So then the car was repossessed, right? But that wasn't what I was thinking when I was praying and saying, like, I don't want to have to worry about this. But it was like, well, no, that's what you didn't want to worry about it. So this is it. This is the solution. And so then I was panicking about how was I going to get around? How was I going to get to my little job? But you have to trust life and trust that God is going to take care of you. The universe is going to take care of you. Because then that's when my friend Will stepped in. Every single day he would call, hey, or text, hey, do you need a ride to work? I never had to worry about transportation. Never. Then my friend Angela ended up buying a second car, and she let me use the second car every single day. And then when I moved to California, I wouldn't have needed a car anyway because I was flying to California. I ended up buying a car there. So you have to just trust. Sometimes things happen in your life. In this moment, you can't see it. You can't see through it. Doesn't make sense. But just keep living. And then you look back and you say, oh, okay, I see why that happened back there. So, yes, I feel liberated after having told my story. Look at Alicia talking about nice decor. See? Hi, Stacy. That's what we do when we come. Yes, that's what. So Levi is going to set up a reading for me at his house, and he's going to invite his friends or family or network or whomever. I'm going to come. I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to read a little piece from the books. We're going to have a little chat and chew, a little cocktail. Thank you, Alicia. David, you should be paying for this. You haven't bought my books yet? Even if you don't want to buy the books, David, you can support the GoFundMe for the So Much to Say podcast. How about that? That information is up here in the caption too. But thank you, David. I appreciate that. What you saying you're going to do, Stacy? You said you think you're going to do that. You know what? I was thinking about doing an entire book of quotes, but I didn't know how interesting that would be. So that's why with the book that I'm writing now, Book of Jewels, each chapter opens with one of my original quotes. There's not these ones up here, but each one opens with an original quote. And then, but the quote frames the chapter. It makes sense to the chapter. Really? So now somebody's saying you should do a book of quotes? Now shit, I can put a book of quotes out next month because I got a file of them in my computer. Yes, depression is serious. And so I want to do a podcast on depression. That's in the works. I want to do a podcast about depression, suicide, and loneliness. Because I don't think people are often brave enough to say that they're lonely. It's okay to say that you're lonely. I needed that car piece. Yes. Like, I was there. Like, I was trying to hold on to a car, and every month was trying to figure it out, and how was I going to hold on to, stressing myself out. And like I said to you the other day, if today was the last day of your life, would that car matter? If you were lying on your deathbed, would you be worrying about a fucking car payment? No. No, you wouldn't. Marion, I just saw your email come through for your email address. Did you want the first book, or you said you needed both books, right? Both books, I'm not even going to charge you shipping. For both books, it'll be $36, so that'll make the books $18 each, and I won't even charge you the shipping. If you just want one book, I'm going to charge you the shipping. It'll be $25. Oh, that is so sweet, Alicia. Thank you. What you saying right there, Stacy? I bought the second. Wait, what? I don't know what that is. You have a typo down there. Tell me what you mean. Hey, Belinda. Hi. Oh, thank you, Bianca. I appreciate that. What city are you in? But yeah, so I've decided that 9 o'clock is going to be my FaceTime live time. And so sometimes we may just chit chat. And then sometimes I might pull a little piece from the book and we'll talk about it. I think I read a piece to you guys the other day from my first book. It was a piece about my dad. And I was saying how he picked me up from my grandmother's house. Oh, New Jersey. He picked me up from my grandmother's house, my maternal grandmother's house. And he took me through like a neighborhood, right? And he said, see that car? He said, see, there's your mother's car right there. And see that house? She's in that house. She's been running around with another man. Did I read that piece to you guys the other day on Facebook Live? I was going to read that tonight, but it felt like I read that already to you. And so I wanted us to have a conversation about it because I feel like my dad did that because he was hurt. He was really hurt. I don't know to this day what happened between my mom and dad. I don't know the ins and outs because I don't know from her perspective and from his perspective. Okay, so I did read that part the other day. But that action on my father's part by taking me there and introducing me to this thing called infidelity, it altered me. It really made me nervous and self-conscious when I've gone into my relationships. It made me nervous about it. So if you think about the things that you've seen in your life or the relationships that have been demonstrated in your life, it really does play a part in how you function in your relationships. Here's another example. And I talk about this in the first book. So again, the books are not just about me coming out and being gay and having sex and da-da-da. It's more than that. In the first book, I talk about how I realized at one point in one of my relationships that I was such a byproduct of my parents and how their relationships were, right? So, like when my mom and dad got into it, like if they got into an argument or whatever, my mom has a wonderful way of not speaking. Like, she'll go around for 3 days and won't speak, okay? She'll talk to everybody, and I'm brilliant at that same thing. I can do it. And my dad, when he was upset with my mom, he could be really curt, really short, really abrasive, almost mean with his words at times, and I can do that too. And so it wasn't until a relationship that I had, it was one of my earlier relationships. This was probably like 2001. And I had to step back, and realize that you are a hybrid of the two of them. And that shit ain't healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not okay to walk around with the silent treatment because you're robbing yourself and your partner of an opportunity to fix it. If you walk around and you ain't fucking talking, that's counterproductive. That's counterproductive to the relationship. So that was what I assessed about myself. And then I also realized from looking from my father's side that it wasn't okay for me to be abrasive or be mean just because I was upset, right? So those were things that I had to pay attention to. Okay, so Stacy says she ordered the second book. You ordered it through me or you ordered it through Amazon? It doesn't matter. I'm just curious. But Well, it does matter because if you order through Amazon, I got to split the money with Amazon and then they pay me once a month, okay? But if you order through me, I get the money right away and I don't have to split it with them. But I'm grateful either way. I'm grateful either way. Amen. I'm just trying to scroll through to see the next questions and stuff. Okay, you're in Kansas City. Okay, Ronell, you sent the money through PayPal. I can't look because I'm on my phone right now. So if you sent it, I have it. Let me go over here on my desk, my laptop, and see. But if it's in there, I'll ship it tomorrow. They'll ship tomorrow. If you order them tonight, they will ship tomorrow, which is Thursday, and you'll have them on Friday. Because we run the business over here. I don't want people having to wait for their shit. Yes, I agree, Levi. Everything leads back to your parents. Everything leads back to your parents. I remember my cousin was, she was about to go through a divorce. And so she had two girls. She has two girls. And I remember, you know, we would talk about it over the phone. And she was living in Cleveland, Ohio at the time. And I think I was living here in Atlanta. And I remember her saying, yeah, well, it got to the point where she would cook dinner and she would cook enough for him, but like her girls would set the table like for dinner. And so instead of her allowing them to set the table for 4 like normal, she said, no, just put 3 out there. Like ignorant shit like that. And I was like, now why would you do that? And so, and of course, the girls were like, well, daddy's not eating it. And she'd be like, well, yeah, he's going to eat, but you don't have to set it because he's not going to be here yet or whatever. Just doing things like that. And I used to tell her, I said, she said, but they don't see us arguing. They don't see any of that arguing. I said, but they still sense the energy between you. I said, and even if they can't language it and describe what it is that they see, that they're witnessing, they know it's happening because in little details like that, like you're telling them, like traditionally they would set the table for 4. And now you're telling them not to set the table for 4, just set it for the 3 of you. They know what's happening. And so I said to her, you were teaching them that this is how to be in relationship with somebody else. I said, so you have to be careful about that. Oh, Ronell, you said you ordered last week. Where'd you order from? You ordered them through me? Ronell, you ordered your books through me? Okay, Stacy. That's okay. I don't mind. Ronell, where did you order your books? You ordered them through me last week or you ordered them through? You ordered them through me? And you haven't gotten them yet? Let me look. You sent me money through PayPal? What city are you in, Ronell? Look at me handling business on here. Ronell, what you mean? You said no, sir. I don't. Tell me what you're saying. What time is it? How long I've been on here? I'm on here about almost an hour now. All right, y'all getting quiet. Oh, I gotta turn the air back on. I had turned the AC off because it had gotten kind of warm in here. So you ordered, Ronell, you sent money through PayPal to me for both of the books last week. Is that what you're saying? Because I done shipped books clear across the country and I haven't got. All right, any more questions or comments? Ron, I'm gonna look at it and then I'm gonna look and see, because I have all of the tracking details for the books that I ship, and I'll look for the PayPal. Any more questions or comments? Ooh, it's hot. What did I say I was going to read you guys another day? Oh, from the book that I'm writing now. What is the what, Alicia? What is the day of your readings? Which reading? Thank you. Is it Taniki? Is that right? Alicia, you said what is the day of my reading? What reading? The one in Atlanta? At Levi's house? Levi, you still in there? So, of course, in this book, okay, Taniki, what are you doing now? Oh, what day am I going to read the next one, you saying? Is that what you asking me? I'm going to need full sentences, okay? I thought she was asking when is the reading going to be at your house. But you're saying, Alicia, when is the next reading from something going to be on Facebook? Tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I'm going to do 9 o'clock on Monday through Friday. Now, I can't commit to the weekends. But Monday through Friday, I'll be here live on Facebook. Monday through Friday, Carolyn, 9 o'clock. And so sometimes I'll do readings too, but sometimes it may just be me talking about my own damn revelations. Bianca said you were better than the television program. Somebody messaged me yesterday and said, do you know I missed all of my television shows watching you on Facebook Live? And then I woke up today to some of the best emails. Let me see if I can find one. It was so sweet. Oh, here's one. Good morning. Wait. Okay, here it is. So I got this email today, and he says, I am emailing you like we are besties, because my email address is on the back of the books. Well, I have them in the captions too. I am emailing you like we are besties, but I had a great time listening to the show. What show? Is this a show? It is he says, it is what I do as I am going to bed, so I'll talk the talk, and the different viewpoints and things that have happened help soothe me and start me to think. He says, I am now officially craving this podcast that I only get half once a week. I want more. What is this? Okay, I don't know what the rest of that says. Okay, but you get the point. And then he says, he sent another email saying, I will look up your It's Okay to Write on YouTube. That's my channel name on YouTube. I've gotten into a routine every night. I say my prayers on my knees, because in the first book I talk about how my grandmother taught me how to pray. And so I write about that. And I've had a lot of people email me and say, oh my God, because of your book, I started getting on my knees to pray again. He says, so I get down on my knees and pray, and I get in the bed with my dog, and I listen to something by you until I fall asleep. TV has fallen by the wayside. That is until your show ends up on TV. He says, it makes my day when I get a message from you. Thank you. So nice. And I think he's hearing impaired, because he had emailed me and asked me if it was an audible. No, not hearing impaired. I think he may be, I want to say he might be blind, because he asked me, or visually impaired. I don't know if he's completely blind, but he asked me if I had the audio version. And so I told him that the first book was, and that's another reason why I got to finish this one, because there are people who want an audio book. So Monday through Friday, 9 p.m., I'm going to come on here and chit-chat. Sometimes there might be some bullshit going on in the day. Taniki says she missed her TV shows too. I appreciate it, Alicia. I appreciate it. So now I'm going to go and check your emails because I saw Bianca sent one. I think Bianca. Or Marion. Marion I know sent one. And then I need to look up Ronell's to see what happened. All right? You guys have a great night. Oh, the bee's knees. One of my professors in college used to say that. Bee's knees. I write about her in the first book, the one that wanted to feel my suede jacket. And she said, what do your peers think of you? Oh, God. But anyway, you guys have a great night. Say your prayers if you believe. I'm not trying to proselytize you. But say your prayers. If you say your prayers, get down on your knees and say your prayers. I'm going to give you this last little piece because since I'm talking about prayers, and my grandmother used to tell me all of the time. All right, so this is from the first book. So my grandmother, my mother's mother. Because I slept on a cot at the foot of my grandmother's bed, she taught me to pray. The first prayer I learned was the Lord's Prayer that she dictated to me every night before bed, even after I knew it by heart. Now I lay, she said. Now I lay, I repeated. I'd pause and wait for the next line. Go ahead and say it. You know it by now, she said. I'm waiting on you, I replied. She'd continue reciting the words to the end, and I'd climb on my cot. As long as you're able to get down on your knees to pray, you should, she said. But what if I'm really tired? I quizzed. If the Lord gives you the strength to get down on your knees to pray, then you get down on your knees to pray. There ain't no such thing as too tired, she reinforced. One night I said my prayers while she was in the bathroom, and when she returned, I was already in the bed. Get up and say your prayers. I did. I sure didn't see you say them, so get up and say them again. I pushed the covers back and crawled down to the floor. My grandmother said her prayers on her knees every night until they became arthritic. She lay on her back with her hands crossed at her chest. Mama, you look dead. Are you asleep? She was completely still. I couldn't tell whether or not she was breathing in the dark. Mama, boy, would you be quiet and let me say my prayers? Mama didn't curse, but I thought on a few instances she wanted to say damn when her patience was tested. The closest she ever came to cursing at me or anyone was to say, you a dirty, nasty, filthy, stinking liar. One night I reminded her to say her prayers because I didn't see her say them. Mama, you didn't say your prayers. I did too. I didn't see you say them. You didn't have to see me. The Lord heard me. Now go to sleep. Good night. That's words never spoken. Good night, people.